Hey Chelsea, I have a question for you.
What do you have?
So do you think Jedis need differentiation when they were in school?
I have been waiting my whole life to answer this question. This is combining all my university coursework and my personal interests in one question.
Or maybe just the mechanics and engineers for all these spacecraft. Talking about technology last episode got me thinking about the future of technological differentiation.
Really? It made me think about the time I put in a work order with IT and they came and told me it wasn't working because it was just a monitor and there was no attached computer.
And on that note, welcome to Con La Familia.
Always learning together.
I'm Therese Shields.
And I'm Chelsea Edge. In this series, we've been looking at differentiation from different perspectives.
This episode focuses on differentiation for students with IEPs. We'll also share another great classroom story and some new shout outs to success.
So stick around and enjoy. Today we've brought in a cadre of experts to help us with our deep dive into differentiation. Casie Bland is the Director of Special Education with SAISD. This is her 8th year with the district. Lorrie Garcia is a program specialist for special ed and has worked with the district for 3 years. And last but certainly not least, Rebecca Charon is a program specialist with the special education department and has worked with the district for 5 years.
Just a little side note to our listeners, you'll hear the acronym IEP a few times in our questions. IEP stands for Individual Education Plan. And it's a plan tailored to fit individual students' needs. Basically, it's a document which details the type of support that a student will need to be successful in your classroom. IEPs are developed after testing and recommendations that have been established by a committee and are required by law to provide for the student. So now, with no further ado, let's get started. So what does differentiation look like for our students with IEPs?
So for our students with IEPs, we really look at differentiation as including them with all of the differentiated groups because our students will perform within the parameters of most other students in the classroom. But where we have to really look at things differently is their IEPs. So we do provide them with what we call specially designed instruction, which is really adapting the content, the presentation, the response to the lesson in that individual way, and it's outlined in their IEP.
Yep. It's not that different from gen ed differentiation. We use different strategies, all outlined in their IEPs. And we also, it's also how you present those strategies and how often you present those strategies. But a good teaching always includes differentiation.
Yes, absolutely. It's also about presenting the content in different ways, giving them the information in a multitude of ways that they can really work on their processing because several of our students have processing disorders. We're looking at guiding their knowledge through multiple pathways and so that they can make the most efficient connection for how their different brain works. A lot of our students may struggle with physical impairments, so like a motoric impairment. They might struggle with a cognitive difference. They might struggle with just emotions for different reasons or trauma in their past, especially. We see that a lot here in SAISD. So we also want to make a variety of methods for them to demonstrate their knowledge. So we're presenting it in different ways. We're offering a multitude of ways for them to demonstrate that they know what they know. And we also want to make it engaging because we are really fighting. Even with gen ed kids, we're in constant battles with TikTok or just their own special emotions or whatever's going on in their lives. And if you multiply that by 10, it still doesn't explain how much we're competing for students with IEPs to get their knowledge. So we need to make the lessons engaging and kind of help with minimize all the distractors that they have in relation to learning.
So I noticed that you use the term general ed. For some of our educators who are just starting out in education and may not know some of the terminology, can you define that for us in your own words?
Gen Ed are general education students who do not have IEPs or 504 plans. They're just your typical average developing kiddo.
Why do we need to differentiate for our students with IEPs?
Differentiation is essential for our students. Like I said before, they do have that IEP, and so it's part of what we promise to provide them. The individual education plan is required, and so we must implement it and we must document it. And what we want to do is embed what they need to mitigate their disability within differentiation for the class. The thing that you have to keep in mind as an educator is that you might have to extend what you've been doing for everyone for our students. For example, you'll see on IEPs repeat directions, right? Which we know we repeat our directions to our whole class, but we have to keep in mind the student with the IEP might need an individual reminder or repeating or saying it in a different way. So that's really why it's so important to provide it. The other thing that we do is we want to teach to mastery. So we want to make sure that we're not moving on without including our students.
And it allows them equal access to the curriculum and learning opportunities. It promotes inclusivity too, using differentiation. Meeting each student's needs can be daunting and difficult because we have now more diverse classrooms than ever. And it's not only the students with IEPs, but also the other learners are very diverse, culturally too, linguistically too. So it's providing equitable opportunities for them, not equal, equitable. That's what we're looking for. That's what differentiation does.
Yeah, I agree. We're looking at what's equitable, and if I'm gonna need to get something from the ceiling, I need a ladder, but someone else may need just a step stool, and that's about what's fair in helping me accomplish the task.
What are first steps to take when differentiating for our students with IEPs?
I think the first step is to know what are the deficits of your student and what are their strengths. Then also looking at your objective with your lesson. So those are the three components that I would always look when I was teaching. Look at their needs, their strengths, and then what is the goal that I want to achieve with the lesson that I'm presenting to them. And then also you have to establish some baseline. So you have to do some type of assessment to know where they are regarding the skill that you want them to master with the lesson. It doesn't have to be a formal assessment. It could be like very informal. It could be a Kahoot. It could be a fun game just for you to know where you need to start with them. And then once you have determined what the students or your class stands, you can take a look at the standards and objectives and unpack them for them too. You can do what they call where you look at the standard and just go backwards and break it down for them and then plan accordingly. And you can determine then your grouping. That's going to help you pick your activities for each of your students, and just be flexible. You're going to have to adjust because the goal is also to monitor and adjust as you deliver the lesson. So flexibility is key to do differentiation because it will change.
I agree with everything you said. And a great thing about having a student with an IEP in your class with special education is that they do have that individualized educational plan. Mm-hmm. So it's all outlined there, everything they need. Mm-hmm. And we also have their FIE, which is their evaluation information. And so that is part of their file. And you can look at that and it'll give you a skills profile. So you'll know kind of the areas where they may struggle. And it will also have recommendations on what you can do in the classroom. So I know for some teachers or new teachers, I know when I was a new teacher, it was intimidating to have a student and I don't understand, they have a disability, what am I going to do? Yeah. And looking at those reports is super helpful. Yeah. Meeting with their case manager, and their case manager is a special education teacher that's monitoring the student's progress and writing that IEP, as well as your school psychologist, which we call them an SP. Mm-hmm. But they are the ones, they might have done that evaluation or they can help explain the information to you. And that's a really great starting point.
Yeah, and that's why data collection is so important. And we always harp on our teachers' data. But it is important because it helps us when we're going through the process to determine if the student is eligible for special education services and if they need an IEP so that we can develop that plan. We're using the data that they're collecting. Then ongoing, we're using the data that Rebecca was talking about and assessing where they're at. We want to fill those gaps with targeted instructional pieces. And then as we move forward, we look at building the next year's plan, and we're still using data. So all of it helps to support the students' needs through that specially designed instruction, which is based on data.
How can teachers differentiate for our students more efficiently? Are there any hacks or tricks of the trade?
I am a big advocate for constantly checking in with your students and providing opportunities for them to check in with you. I think they need to, they know their deficits and they don't feel comfortable asking for help many times or letting you know they're not understanding. So I think it's important that we establish some type of routine and some type of system where they feel comfortable coming in and talking to you, and for you to check in with them and see how they're doing with the lesson. You know, it's the pacing working for them. Are they understanding the prerequisite skills? Do they have those prerequisite skills? Do they need more help with that? In technology can be your best friend with differentiation. So I think the use of technology is very important. And there's so many apps out there. We were talking about it, Lorrie and I, today, that can level the material, can provide accommodations like speech to text. Snap and read is one great one for them to be able to read the content that they can't read. You know way more than I do about those apps. She's the technology expert. So
yeah, and when we're looking at what the student needs, of course we do student first. And we do have some things. I love student conferences, by the way. They're essential, not just in identifying where the student's at academically, but where they're at socially, because, you can't get their attention and help them learn if they're just not in the right space. And you can help them with that. We're really leading the charge as a district on those social emotional lessons and the growth of a student internally. But as far as what we need for helping a teacher, we have some things that Casey's had us been working on, like choice boards, and the teacher can take the different pieces that we have up that are very general, and they can adapt them to support the needs of their students. So if they know a student needs the text-to-speech or the voice recognition, if they need support in different ways, it's all on our special education services website as choice boards. We also have things embedded in the curriculum for the SDI piece.
Yes, so for each unit plan and each control panel, there's a section titled Differentiation, and you'll see a variety of resources there. But if you click on Strategies for Students with Disabilities, we do have some choice boards linked, as well as a strategy sheet for every single unit that includes graphic organizers, links to videos, suggested anchor charts. And so if a teacher just doesn't know where to start, they can go right there, and it goes along with each unit.
Wonderful. Okay. What are your final thoughts for our teachers out there working with students with IEPs?
Give yourself some grace. You're a new teacher. It's difficult. Teaching is a difficult career, and a teacher that works with students with IEPs, it's even more difficult. So I think you got to give yourself some grace. Differentiation is a craft that takes practice, and as you practice and do it more and more, you'll get better at it, and it will be second nature to implement strategies. And like I said before, be flexible too. You're going to have to adapt. The classroom is a dynamic setting. It does not stay the same all the time, and kids might come that day where, like Lorrie was talking to me, that it might be picture day, it might be there's an event going on, there's like the fall festival, Halloween, and they just get so excited they can't really focus on what you want to teach. So just be flexible and understand that if we're trying to meet the needs of the students, we have to practice that flexibility. So.
And I would say that specially designed instruction is the essence of every program that we curate for each individual student. And when we're looking at that, we look at it not from a lens of special education or disability services. We look at it as a lens from a professional educator. And we want to make sure that all of the other professional educators know that we do offer a full continuum of professional development, and we can build it for what their campus or they specifically need as a person. They can reach out to their program specialist. Each campus has one. And we, in addition to the choice boards, we have control panels that are embedded into all of the major curricular areas: math, science, social studies, and reading. And we are definitely willing to work and build what the campuses need, because we are a service that is provided for them.
And I would just say, just don't give up. Some of our students may take longer to understand something. That doesn't mean that they can't get it, or that maybe they need it presented in a different way. So just remember that they do have that capacity, and it may take repetitions. It may take teaching it in several different ways. And so just don't give up, and they will get there. They have so much potential. And if you need any support, just reach out to us.
Yeah.
You can reach me by email, cbland2@saisd.net. I'm always here to answer questions or send someone out to support you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been fabulous. We really appreciate your insight and your wisdom. I'm excited about these resources. I actually think, Chelsea, we can link those to our podcast website.
Absolutely. I'd love to see more about them. They sound like great resources. And now for another amazing classroom story.
This is my favorite time of the podcast, by the way. I love hearing all these stories.
Absolutely.
Take it away.
Okay. I support the Esperanza program for the district, which is our evidence-based dyslexia reading intervention program for our students who primary language is Spanish. And one of the students at Maverick Elementary, the teacher called me this past weekend just to share this story with me, that she was so excited about the program. She got trained back in January. We all got trained back in January. And she had started implementing the program. The student came from a Latin American country recently. He was struggling with the language, struggling with adapting to a new country. He was already very low in reading in Spanish. And he was recently evaluated and was labeled a student with dyslexia and SLD and dyslexia. So she was telling me that as the moment she started implementing Esperanza with him, he had made amazing progress. He could barely read 2 to 3 words in Spanish, and now he's able to read 3 to 4 sentence paragraphs. And he's so excited just to see him light up every time. She was telling me that it makes her work worthwhile just to see him light up every time he's able to read a book. He can sit down and read, a simple book, and he can tell her about it. So I thought that was a great story to share with everyone.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yay,
that's
so amazing.
And we're so fortunate to be able to implement something like Esperanza here in SAISD.
Yes.
It's not easy to find a special education teacher who's bilingual.
Right.
And we are able to find them, and we, work around solutions to make sure those students get the reading intervention that they need. So that's really exciting.
Yes, and I'm excited for the teacher too, who is so excited about the program. She can't wait to have more training and just learn new things about it. So
That's so amazing.
It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
And now it's time for some shout outs.
This was a good one submitted. Shout out to teachers and paraprofessionals who are tutoring through After the Bell Tutoring. It's meaningful and impactful work.
Shout out to Miss Guadalupe Cresdorn, a high school math teacher, for incorporating students' surveys in her classroom to get feedback.
Shout out to Ms. Stephanie Chaddick, art teacher at Edison, for fostering great relationships and rapport with her students.
Hey, Chelsea, that's a few down now.
That's right, we're going strong, and we need you to help us out, dear listeners.
Yes, please. We're looking for more questions to answer, more classroom stories, and more shout outs to success to share. You can email them to us at goldenlafamilia@saisd.net.
Also, don't forget to join us for our upcoming PD.
This podcast is supported by the TSL Initiative and teachers and Jedis like you, who are also practically perfect in every way.
Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.